I should have been worrying about the stack of case files waiting on my desk. I should have been thinking about my career, my apartment lease coming due, the promotion review scheduled for next month. Instead, all I could think about was how spectacularly wrong this operation had gone. The abandoned warehouse smelled like rust and old oil. My hands were zip-tied behind my back, plastic cutting into my wrists. 3 men stood around me, silent as statues. None of them had spoken since they'd grabbed me outside the building I'd been surveilling for 2 weeks. Then he walked in. Vincent Volkov moved like water, each step deliberate. Dark hair, darker eyes, wearing a black suit that probably cost more money than I made in 6 months. The kind of face that belonged in magazines, not FBI surveillance photos. He stopped 3 feet away, studying me with the casual interest of someone examining a mildly curious insect. "Sophia Brennan," he said. His voice was smooth, accented just slightly. "Forensic accountant, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Chicago Field Office." My stomach dropped. He knew exactly who I was. "You've been watching my distribution center on South Morgan Street for 13 days, he continued. "Terrible surveillance, by the way. Same coffee shop every morning, same gray sedan parked in different spots, but always within 2 blocks. I kept my expression neutral. I don't know what you're talking about." "Of course you don't." He pulled over a metal chair, sat down, crossed one leg over the other. "Let's try something different. Why don't you tell me what evidence you think you have? What your superiors believe they can prove? I want a lawyer." "This isn't an interrogation, Miss Brennan. It's a conversation." He tilted his head, though I suppose the zip ties don't support that claim. One of his men shifted. Volkov raised a hand without looking, and the man went still again. "Here's what's going to happen," Volkov said. "You're going to tell me everything the FBI knows about my operations. In exchange, I'll let you walk out of here." I almost laughed. "You think I'm going to betray my agency for my life?" "I think you're going to do whatever keeps you breathing long enough to see tomorrow." His tone remained pleasant, conversational. Most people do. My heart was trying to break through my ribs. I could feel sweat rolling down my spine despite the cold warehouse air, but I'd been trained for this. Hostage scenarios, interrogation resistance, crisis negotiation. I knew the playbook. "The Bureau knows about the accounts in the Cayman Islands," I said. "The shell corporations in Delaware. The money laundering through your hotel properties." Volkov's expression didn't change. "Interesting. Continue." "They know about the distribution network, the connections to the cargo operations at the port." I was making half of this up, throwing out educated guesses based on my actual investigation. "They're building a RICO case, multiple agencies involved." "How many agents assigned to my investigation?" 12. "Surveillance teams?" 4 rotating. "Timeline for indictment?" 6 months, maybe less. Volkov stood, walking a slow circle around my chair. I forced myself not to track his movement, keeping my eyes forward. "You're lying," he said finally. "But you're good at it. I appreciate the effort." My chest tightened. "I'm telling you what I know." "No. You're telling me what you think will buy you time." He stopped in front of me again. "The Cayman accounts don't exist. We closed them 8 months ago. The shell corporations you mentioned were dissolved last year. Your investigation has been chasing ghosts for weeks." Blood rushed in my ears. He was right. We'd been working from outdated intelligence, following trails that had gone cold. "So here's my actual question," Volkov said. "Why would the FBI waste resources on dead leads? Unless you're not actually investigating me at all. Unless this is something else." I said nothing. "Or," he continued, voice dropping lower, "unless you're working alone. Running your own investigation off the books, hoping to make a name for yourself with a big arrest." My silence was answer enough. Volkov laughed, the sound sharp and surprising. "That's remarkably stupid. Admirably stupid, even. Are you going to kill me or not?" The words came out sharper than I intended. "I haven't decided." He pulled his phone from his pocket, typed something. "Tell me, Miss Brennan. Do you have family? Parents? Siblings? Children?" "That's none of your business. I'll take that as a no." He pocketed the phone. "Husband? Boyfriend?" Also none of your business. So you're alone. It wasn't a question. Dedicated to your career, no personal life to speak of. Let me guess. You're in your early 30s, watching colleagues get promoted while you're stuck reviewing financial statements in a basement office. Heat flushed my face. He was uncomfortably accurate. I had you investigated the moment my security team identified you, Volkov said. 32 years old, top of your class at Northwestern, recruited straight out of graduate school. 7 years with the Bureau, minimal advancement. No romantic relationships longer than 4 months. You live alone in a studio apartment in Logan Square. Your only regular social interaction is a monthly dinner with your sister, who lives in Milwaukee. I felt exposed, dissected. What's your point? My point is that you threw yourself into this investigation because you have nothing else. He leaned forward. Which makes you either very dangerous or very useful. I'm not helping you. I'm not asking you to. He straightened. I'm offering you something different. Before I could respond, the warehouse door opened. A woman in a severe gray suit entered, holding a file folder. She whispered something to Volkov, handed him the folder, and left. Volkov flipped through the pages. Your medical records are quite thorough. Stage 4 endometriosis, multiple surgeries, specialists in 3 different states. He looked up. I'm sorry. That must have been difficult. My breath caught. How did you? I told you. I'm thorough. He closed the folder. The doctor's notes indicate the condition makes pregnancy impossible, that the scarring is too extensive. Tears burned behind my eyes. I'd spent years accepting that reality, building walls around the grief. Hearing him say it so casually ripped those walls down. Why are you telling me this? My voice cracked. Volkov set the folder aside. Because 6 months ago, my younger brother and his wife were killed. Car accident. Though we both know it was no accident. They left behind 3 children, 12, 9, and 6 years old. I blinked, thrown by the sudden shift in conversation. I'm responsible for them now. He continued. I provide everything they need. Security, education, the best therapists money can buy. But what I can't provide is what they actually need. Someone who understands children. Someone who can help them heal. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm making you an offer. He moved closer. Close enough that I could see flecks of amber in his dark eyes. Disappear. I'll create a trail showing you fled after receiving threats. The Bureau will believe you ran scared. In exchange, you come work for me. Not in my illegal operations, but in my legitimate businesses. I own hotels, restaurants, real estate. All of it needs a talented accountant. You want me to work for you. I want you to help my family. His voice gentled. The children need someone. Someone stable. Someone kind. You have skills I can use in my legal ventures, and you clearly have no life waiting for you in Chicago. So I just betray everything I believe in and join a crime syndicate. You join a family that needs you. He paused. Or you refuse, and I let you go. You'll walk out of here tonight, return to your empty apartment, your dead-end job, your lonely existence. But you'll be alive. I should have said no. Should have demanded he release me immediately. Should have been planning how to bring him down the moment I was free. Instead, I heard myself say, I can't have children. The words fell between us, heavy and irrelevant. Volkov's expression softened, just for a moment. Then he smiled, and it transformed his entire face. I've got more than enough for both of us. 2 weeks after I agreed to Volkov's deal, I officially stopped existing. The FBI received my resignation letter, citing escalating threats from a cartel investigation I'd helped with the previous year. Security footage showed me boarding a flight to Seattle. Credit card transactions appeared in Portland 3 days later. My apartment was cleaned out, forwarded to a storage unit. My phone number went to voicemail. All of it fabricated, all of it frighteningly convincing. I spent those 2 weeks in a safe house on the outskirts of Chicago, watching my old life dissolve. Volkov visited twice, bringing documents for me to review. Financial statements, trust fund paperwork, incorporation filings. He wanted my expertise establishing protected accounts for his nieces and nephew. Clean money, legitimate investments. I appreciated the irony of using my FBI training to help a crime boss secure his family's future. On the 15th day, he drove me to Lake Forest himself. No armed escorts, no dramatic security convoy. Just the two of us in a black Mercedes, traveling north through suburbs that grew progressively wealthier with each mile. "They don't know you're coming," he said, as we turned onto a tree-lined private road. "I thought it best not to overwhelm them with advance warning." "What did you tell them about me?" "That you're going to help with their education. That you'll be living in the estate. That they're to treat you with respect." He glanced over. "I didn't tell them you're FBI. Former FBI. Probably smart." The estate appeared through the trees like something from a film. 3 stories of pale stone, tall windows reflecting afternoon sun, surrounded by manicured grounds, and a wall I suspected was more functional than decorative. Cameras tracked our approach from multiple angles. "Welcome home," Volkov said, and the word felt surreal. A severe-looking woman in her 60s met us at the door. Gray hair pulled back tight, sharp eyes that assessed me in 3 seconds flat. "Mrs. Henley, this is Sophia Brennan," Volkov introduced. "She'll be taking over the children's education and care. Please show her to the guest suite in the East Wing." "Of course, sir." Her voice matched her appearance. Clipped, professional, revealing nothing. "The children are in the library." Volkov turned to me. "Get settled. I'll introduce you in an hour." The guest suite was larger than my entire Logan Square apartment had been. Bedroom, sitting area, private bathroom with a tub deep enough to swim in. My belongings, the few I'd been allowed to keep, had been unpacked and put away. Someone had placed fresh flowers on the dresser. I sat on the edge of the enormous bed, trying to process the unreality of my situation. 3 weeks ago, I'd been a federal agent. Now I was living in a mobster's mansion, about to become a governess to 3 traumatized children. The door opened without warning. A boy stood in the doorway, maybe 12 years old, with dark blonde hair and gray eyes that held far too much suspicion for someone so young. "You're the new governess," he said, not a question. "I'm Sophia. You must be Alexei. How long are you staying?" "I live here now." He crossed his arms. "That's what the last one said. She left after 2 months." "I'm not planning on leaving. Everyone leaves." He said it matter-of-factly, without self-pity, just stating an observed truth. Before I could respond, a smaller figure appeared behind him. A girl, 9 or so, with long blonde hair and the bluest eyes I'd ever seen. She clutched a stuffed rabbit against her chest. "Alexei." Uncle Vincent said not to bother her. The girl whispered, "I'm not bothering. I'm investigating." He looked back at me. "What did you do before this?" "I was an accountant." "That's boring. Incredibly boring," I agreed. "But useful." A tiny laugh escaped the girl before she covered her mouth. Alexei shot her a look, but I caught the protective edge to it. "I'm Katya," she offered quietly. "It's nice to meet you, Katya." I stood carefully, not wanting to startle her. "Is that your rabbit?" She nodded, holding it tighter. "Does it have a name?" "Mr. Whiskers." "I know that's not a good rabbit name, but I named him when I was little." "I think it's a perfect name." Volkov appeared in the doorway. "Alexei, I thought I made myself clear about giving Miss Brennan space to settle in." "I was just introducing myself," Alexei said, but he stepped back. "Where's Nikolai?" Volkov asked. "Under his bed," Katya said softly. "He's been there since breakfast." Something passed across Volkov's face, too quick to identify. "Show Miss Brennan to the library. I'll get your brother." The library was less a room and more a cathedral of books. 2 stories of shelves, rolling ladders, comfortable chairs positioned near tall windows. A 3rd child sat in a leather chair far too large for him, knees drawn up, staring at nothing. Nikolai was 6, according to the file I'd read. Dark hair like his uncle, brown eyes currently fixed on a spot somewhere past my left shoulder. He didn't acknowledge our entrance. "Nikolai," Katya said gently. "Uncle Vincent is bringing someone to meet us." No response. "He does that," Alexei said. "Doesn't talk much. Doctors say it's trauma. I say he just doesn't feel like it." Katya elbowed him. "Alexei, don't be mean." "I'm not being mean. I'm being accurate." Volkov entered carrying Nikolai, who remained rigid as a board in his arms. He set the boy down carefully in the chair, positioning him like a doll. "Children, This is Sophia Brennan. She'll be living here, helping with your studies and activities. Volkov's hand rested on Nikolai's shoulder. You will treat her with respect and courtesy. Understood? Yes, Uncle Vincent. Alexei and Katya chorused. Nikolai said nothing. Miss Brennan has experience with education and finance. She'll be reviewing your current curriculum and making adjustments as needed. You will cooperate with her instructions. Do we have a choice? Alexei asked. No, Volkov said simply. You don't. The first week was an exercise in patience I didn't know I possessed. Alexei tested every boundary, questioning every assignment, challenging every decision. Katya was eager to please, but jumped at sudden noises, her hands trembling when she held pencils too long. Nikolai remained a ghost, physically present, but mentally elsewhere. I established a routine. Mornings for traditional academics. Math, science, literature. Afternoons for art, music, physical activity. I kept lessons short, expectations reasonable. When Alexei refused to complete an algebra worksheet, I sat down and did it with him instead of demanding compliance. When Katya had a panic attack during a reading about families, I closed the book, and we spent an hour drawing pictures instead. When Nikolai wouldn't speak, I narrated everything I was doing, giving him a constant, gentle stream of words that required no response. Volkov observed from a distance. I'd catch glimpses of him in doorways, watching Alexei and me work through a geography project. He'd appear in the music room while Katya practiced piano, leaning against the wall with an expression I couldn't read. He'd sit with Nikolai before bed every night, reading picture books to a child who never reacted. During evening meetings, after the children slept, Volkov and I reviewed financial documents. He wanted to establish trust funds, educational accounts, protected investments that couldn't be touched by his enemies or seized by federal investigations. I restructured his legitimate holdings, created paper trails that would withstand scrutiny. You're good at this, he said one night, 3 weeks into my residence. I was trained by the best. The FBI doesn't know what they lost. They'll figure it out eventually. I closed the laptop. When they realize the leads were planted. By then you'll be too deeply embedded here to extract. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey, pushed one across the desk. Does that worry you? Should it? Most people would find this arrangement concerning. Living with a criminal, caring for his family, complicit in helping him hide assets. Most people haven't spent 7 years watching bad people hurt good ones while bureaucracy ties everyone's hands. I took the glass, but didn't drink. You're not a good person, Volkov. But those children deserve better than what they've been given. Is that why you agreed? The children? That's part of it. What's the rest? I met his eyes. I spent years investigating people who would kill me without hesitation and sleep fine that night. At least here. I know where I stand. 3 days later, armed men broke through the north gate at 2 a.m. Alarms shrieked through the house. I bolted from bed, grabbed the phone Volkov had given me for emergencies. He answered before the first ring finished. Stay in your room, he ordered. Lock the door. Don't come out for anyone but me. The children. I'll get them. Stay where you are. But Katya was screaming. I could hear her through the walls, high and terrified. Nikolai would be catatonic. Alexei would try to protect them both and get himself killed. I ran. The children's wing was chaos. Alexei stood in his doorway holding a baseball bat. Katya was in the hallway in her nightgown, sobbing. Nikolai's door was closed. Come with me, I said, grabbing Katya's hand. Now, we need to get Nikolai, Alexei insisted. I pushed past him, threw open Nikolai's door. The boy was under his bed, exactly as I'd expected. I dropped to the floor, reached under, pulled him out despite his rigid resistance. Safe room, I said to Alexei. Where is it? The library, behind the north bookshelf. Gunfire erupted somewhere below us. Katya screamed again. I picked up Nikolai, grabbed Katya's wrist, and ran. Alexei followed, bat still gripped in white-knuckled hands. The library was dark. I found the bookshelf by memory, felt along the frame until my fingers found the hidden latch. The shelf swung inward, revealing a reinforced door with a keypad. Code, I demanded. Alexei rattled off 6 numbers. The door clicked open, I shoved all 3 children inside, followed them in, sealed it behind us. The safe room was small but equipped. Water, food, medical supplies, communications equipment. I set Nikolai down carefully. Katya crashed into me, arms locking around my waist. "It's okay," I murmured, stroking her hair. "We're safe now. Your uncle will handle this. They're going to kill us," Alexei said, voice shaking despite the brave set of his jaw. "No one's killing anyone." I pulled him into the embrace with Katya. Nikolai stayed separate, curled into a ball. "We wait here until your uncle comes for us." The wait stretched into eternity. Muffled sounds filtered through the reinforced walls. Shouts, more gunfire. Then silence more terrifying than noise. Then the keypad beeped. I pushed the children behind me, positioning myself between them and the door. It opened. Volkov stood there, suit jacket gone, white shirt spattered with blood. His knuckles were raw. His expression was murder barely contained. Then he saw us, and his face transformed. "You're safe. We're fine," I said. "All of us." He stepped inside, dropped to his knees, and pulled all 3 children into his arms. Katya burst into fresh tears. Alexei's bat clattered to the floor. Even Nikolai leaned into the embrace, the first voluntary physical contact I'd seen him initiate. Over their heads, Volkov's eyes found mine. In that moment, something passed between us. Recognition, maybe. Understanding. 2 people who would do violence to protect these children. "Thank you," he said quietly. I nodded. There were no words adequate for what had just happened. Later, after the children were settled in reinforced rooms with guards posted, after the bodies had been removed and the blood cleaned, Volkov found me standing in the library. "You disobeyed a direct order," he said. "I know. You could have been killed. So could they." He moved closer, close enough that I could smell copper and gunpowder on him. "You saved their lives. You trained them where the safe room was. I just followed through. Most people would have hidden, saved themselves. I'm not most people." His hand came up, fingers gentle against my jaw. The touch startled me more than the violence had. "No," he said softly. "You're not." Security tripled overnight. New cameras appeared in every hallway. Guards patrolled the grounds in rotating shifts, and the children weren't allowed outside without armed escorts. The attack had come from Luca Ferraro's organization, Volkov explained during a tense meeting the morning after. A rival who wanted to expand his territory into Chicago's North Side. "How did they get through your security?" I asked. "Someone gave them entry codes, access schedules." His jaw tightened. "Someone inside." The realization settled cold in my stomach. "You have a traitor." Had, past tense. He didn't elaborate, and I didn't ask. I spent the next 3 days doing what I did best, following money. Volkov gave me access to payroll records, transaction histories, personnel files. I tracked payments, looking for anomalies, extra deposits, sudden wealth, unexplained transfers. Found him on day 4. Junior security officer named Marcus Webb, $32,000 deposited into an account under his girlfriend's name, split across 3 transactions over 2 months. The timing matched Ferraro's surveillance of the property. I showed Volkov the evidence in his office. He studied the documents in silence, expression carved from stone. "Where is he now?" I asked. No longer a concern. His tone carried finality that made my skin prickle. "You found this quickly. I've been tracking financial crimes for 7 years. This was amateur hour. The FBI taught you well. The FBI taught me to find evidence that would stand up in court." I met his eyes. "What you do with information doesn't require a judge. Does that bother you?" It should have. It should have horrified me, sent me running to whatever remained of my conscience. Instead, I thought about Katya's screams, Nikolai's catatonic terror, Alexei gripping that baseball bat with hands too young for that kind of fear. "No," I said. "It doesn't." Something flickered in his expression. Approval, maybe. Or recognition. The children's recovery was gradual, uneven. Alexei became more protective, shadowing his siblings constantly. He asked me to teach him self-defense, so I showed him basic strikes and holds, moves I'd learned at Quantico. He practiced with fierce determination, transforming fear into focused aggression. Katya's nightmares intensified. I started sleeping in a chair in her room, waking when her whimpers turned to screams. She'd cry into my shoulder until exhaustion claimed her again. During the day, she drew obsessively. Pictures of the house, the family, and repeatedly, an image of me standing between her and shadowy figures. "You kept us safe," she told me one afternoon, adding color to one of her drawings. "Uncle Vincent says you didn't have to." "Of course I did. The other governesses wouldn't have." She selected a blue pencil, carefully shading. "They didn't care about us. Not really. They were just doing a job. You're not a job, Katya. None of you are." She looked up, blue eyes solemn. "Then what are we?" I thought about my empty apartment, my solitary existence, the years I'd spent telling myself that career was substitute for connection. "You're the family I didn't know I needed." Her face lit up with a shy smile that made my chest ache. Nikolai's progress was hardest to measure. He still barely spoke, but he started following me around the house. A silent shadow who'd appear in doorways, watching. I narrated everything I did, keeping up a steady stream of words that required no response. "I'm making tea now. Do you want some? No? That's okay. I like chamomile, but your uncle prefers Earl Grey. Says it's more sophisticated. I think it tastes like perfume, but don't tell him I said that." Occasionally, Nikolai would nod or shake his head. Small victories I celebrated silently. 2 months after the attack, Volkov invited me to a charity gala. "Business necessity," he explained. "I need to maintain certain appearances. The children will stay here with security. You'll accompany me." "As what, exactly?" "As my guest. The children's governess. Whatever story we want to tell." He paused. "I'd like you there." I should have said no. Should have recognized the danger in blurring lines between employee and something else. Instead, I found myself agreeing. The dress arrived that afternoon. Deep red, elegant without being revealing. It fit perfectly, which meant he'd somehow known my measurements. I chose not to think too hard about that. The gala was everything I expected. Wealthy people in expensive clothes, champagne flowing freely, orchestra playing while couples danced. Volkov moved through the crowd with practiced ease, introducing me as his associate. Men shook my hand. Women evaluated me with sharp eyes. Everyone was performing, presenting carefully curated versions of themselves. Halfway through the evening, Volkov's posture changed. Subtle, but I'd learned to read his tells. I followed his gaze to a man across the room. Late 40s, silver hair, expensive suit that somehow looked wrong on him. "Luca Ferraro," Volkov said quietly. "Stay close." Ferraro approached with a predator's confidence. "Vincent, I didn't expect to see you here tonight." I could say the same. "I believe in supporting the arts." Ferraro's attention shifted to me. "And who is this lovely companion?" "A friend," Volkov said, voice edged with warning. "How nice." Ferraro's smile was all teeth. "You've built quite a beautiful family, Vincent. The children, this charming woman. It would be terrible if something happened to disturb such peace." My pulse spiked, but I kept my expression neutral. Years of interrogation training had taught me to control physical reactions. "Is that a threat?" Volkov asked, conversational and deadly. "Merely an observation. These are dangerous times. Accidents happen." Ferraro's gaze lingered on me. "You should be more careful about the company you keep." He walked away before Volkov could respond. I watched him disappear into the crowd, memorizing his face, his gait, the way he held himself. "We're leaving," Volkov said. The drive back was silent, tension radiating from him in waves. I'd seen him angry before, but this was different. Controlled fury, calculating and cold. "He threatened you," Volkov said finally. "Directly. He threatened all of us. I won't let him touch you. Any of you." His hands gripped the steering wheel. "I should have ended this weeks ago. Why didn't you?" "Because I was trying to avoid a war. Trying to minimize casualties." He glanced at me. "Trying to protect what matters." We pulled up to the house. Before I could exit, Volkov caught my wrist. "You should leave," he said. I can create a new identity. Send you somewhere safe. Away from this. Is that what you want? What I want is irrelevant. Answer the question. His thumb brushed across my pulse point. No. It's the last thing I want. The honesty in his voice unraveled something inside me. Then stop trying to make my decisions for me. This life is dangerous, Sophia. You saw what happened. That will keep happening. I know. You could die. We all die eventually. I turned my hand, lacing our fingers together. The question is whether we live first. He pulled me closer, close enough that I could see gold flecks in his dark eyes. You deserve better than this. Than me. Maybe I do, but I'm choosing this anyway. When he kissed me, it was like falling and flying simultaneously. Desperate and gentle, claiming and questioning. My hand fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer. His fingers tangled in my hair, angling my head for better access. We broke apart, breathing hard. This is a terrible idea, he said. Probably. It complicates everything. I know. I can't promise you safety. Can't promise you a normal life. I don't want normal. I cupped his face, feeling the sharp line of his jaw. I want this. You, them, all of it. Even knowing what I am? I thought about the man who read bedtime stories to traumatize children, who'd held them while they cried, who'd trusted me with his family's safety, who carried the weight of his brother's death like a physical burden. Especially knowing what you are. He kissed me again. Slower this time. A promise instead of a question. Inside the house, Mrs. Henley greeted us with raised eyebrows but no comment. The children are asleep. Miss Katya had a nightmare around 9, but settled quickly. Thank you, I said, reluctantly stepping away from Volkov. Miss Brennan. He caught my hand once more. This doesn't change your position here. You're still in charge of the children's welfare. I understand, but it changes everything else. I nodded. It did. We both knew it. That night, I lay awake thinking about choices, about the life I'd left behind and the one I was building, about 3 children who needed me and a man who'd become far more than an employer. I should have been terrified, should have been planning my escape. Instead, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. I felt like I'd finally come home. The weeks that followed existed in a strange, suspended reality. During the day, I was the children's governess, maintaining structure and routine. During the evenings, after Nikolai's bedtime story and Katya's last check-in and Alexei's reluctant goodnight, I became something else entirely. Volkov and I were careful. No public displays, no obvious changes that might confuse the children. But in the quiet hours, we'd meet in his study or my suite, talking about everything and nothing. He told me about growing up in Brighton Beach, taking over his father's organization at 16. I shared memories of Northwestern, of choosing the FBI because I'd believed in justice. Do you regret it? He asked one night, fingers tracing patterns on my shoulder. Leaving the bureau? I regret believing that institutions could fix what's broken. I turned to face him. But no, I don't regret being here, even though I'm exactly the kind of person you spent years trying to catch. You're not, though. Not exactly. I considered how to explain. The people I investigated destroyed lives for profit. You're trying to protect your family, by running an illegal empire, by doing what you had to in order to survive. I kissed him softly. I'm not excusing it, but I understand it. 3 months into our relationship, Volkov called a meeting with his advisors. I wasn't supposed to attend, but he asked me to review financial projections first. The numbers told a concerning story. You're planning to exit the distribution network, I said, pointing to the spreadsheets. Transfer territory to other organizations. I'm considering it. Your advisors will hate this. They'll see it as weakness. What do you see it as? Strategic repositioning. You've got legitimate holdings worth $40 million. Hotels in 3 cities, restaurants, commercial real estate. You don't need the criminal operations anymore. I need the protection they provide. You need security. That's different. I pulled up another document. You could hire private security. Pay them better than they'd make elsewhere. Vet them thoroughly. Legal, controllable, sustainable. That would take time. Everything worthwhile takes time. He studied the projections in silence. Ferraro would see it as an opening. Try to take over completely. So you negotiate. Give him the West Side territory. Keep the legitimate businesses and the North Shore operations. Create a buffer. You've been thinking about this. I've been thinking about a lot of things. I closed the laptop. The children are healing, but they need stability. Katya still has nightmares about men breaking in. Alexei is learning to fight instead of just being a kid. Nikolai speaks more now, but he watches the doors constantly. They need to feel safe. They are safe. I've made sure of that. For now. But what happens during the next territorial dispute? The next rival who decides to make a point? I caught his hand. You can't protect them and run this empire forever. Eventually, something will break. His jaw tightened. You're asking me to give up everything I've built. I'm asking you to choose what matters most. The conversation ended there, but I could see the wheels turning. Vincent Volkov hadn't survived this long by being impulsive. He'd consider every angle, every risk. 2 days later, Alexei asked me a question that nearly broke me. We were in the garden, practicing defensive moves I'd been teaching him. He was getting good, channeling his anger into precise strikes. After an hour, we sat on the stone bench, cooling down. Can I ask you something? His voice was carefully casual. Of course. Are you going to leave when you don't have to be here anymore? I turned to face him fully. What makes you think I have to be here? You're not a prisoner. Uncle Vincent would let you go if you wanted. He picked at a loose thread on his shirt. Everyone leaves eventually. I just want to know when. The pain in his voice was carefully hidden, but I heard it anyway. Alexei, I'm not going anywhere. That's what my mom said. The morning before the accident, she promised we'd go to the beach that summer. His gray eyes met mine. She didn't lie on purpose. She just couldn't keep the promise. I pulled him into a hug, feeling him resist before melting into it. You're right. I can't promise I'll be here forever because none of us can predict the future. But I can promise I'm not planning to leave. This is my home now. You, Katya, Nikolai, your uncle, you're my family. But you can't have kids. Uncle Vincent told us. He pulled back, face scrunched in confusion. Don't you want a real family? The question would have gutted me a year ago. Now, holding this traumatized 12-year-old who was trying so hard to protect himself from more loss, I felt only certainty. This is a real family, I said firmly. Family isn't just about biology. It's about choosing to show up for each other every day. And I choose you, all of you. His face crumpled. Tears he'd been holding back for months finally breaking free. I held him while he cried, thinking about all the ways life had brought us to this moment. That evening, I took Volkov to Brookfield Zoo. The children came too, with a security detail of 6 men trying to look inconspicuous in their dark suits. It was absurd and wonderful. Katya dragged us to the penguin exhibit, pressing her face against the glass. They mate for life, she announced. The guide told us during our school trip. That's very romantic, I agreed. Do people do that? Mate for life? Volkov and I exchanged glances over her head. Some do, I said carefully. Are you and Uncle Vincent mating for life? I choked on air. Volkov coughed. Alexei snickered. That's a complicated question, sweetheart. I managed. It's not complicated. Either you are or you aren't. She looked between us with 9-year-old directness. We talk about it at night. Me and Alexei and Nikolai. We think you should get married. Is that so? Volkov said, amusement coloring his tone. Then Sophia would be our aunt. Legally. Katya grabbed my hand. I'd like that. Nikolai, who'd been silent through the entire exchange, nodded emphatically. Later, after the children were asleep, Volkov found me on the terrace. They're not subtle. Not even a little bit. I leaned against the railing. Does it bother you? Them assuming we're permanent? Does it bother you? I asked first. He moved behind me, arms encircling my waist. No, it doesn't bother me. Terrifies me, but doesn't bother me. Why terrified? Because wanting something this much gives it power to destroy you. His breath was warm against my neck. I've spent 20 years avoiding attachment. Easier to lose nothing if you risk nothing. And now? Now I'm risking everything. He turned me to face him. I spoke to my advisors, told them I'm transitioning out of distribution over the next 2 years, focusing on legitimate operations. My heart kicked. What did they say? That I'm making a mistake, that Ferraro will take it as weakness, that I'm throwing away decades of work. His hands framed my face. I told them I don't care, that I have more important priorities. Vincent, I'm not doing this just for you, or just for the children. I'm doing it because you're right. This life has an expiration date, and I'd rather exit on my terms than wait for it to destroy us. I kissed him, pouring everything I couldn't articulate into the contact. Gratitude, fear, love, hope. There's more, he said when we broke apart. I contacted intermediaries, offered Ferraro the West Side territory in exchange for a formal peace agreement. No retaliation, no encroachment on the North Shore. Will he accept? He'd be stupid not to. It's a bigger territory than he could take by force, and he avoids a costly war. Volkov's expression darkened. But Ferraro isn't known for strategic thinking. He's known for being greedy and violent. So it might not work. It might not work. We stood there in the dark, holding each other, both knowing that the peace we'd built was fragile. That one wrong move could shatter everything. I love you, I said. The words felt inevitable, natural as breathing. His eyes widened, genuine surprise crossing his features. You don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. I touched his face, feeling the tension in his jaw. I love you. The children love you. We're building something here that's worth protecting. Even if it falls apart, it won't fall apart. We won't let it. He kissed me again, and I tasted something that might have been hope. The next morning, Ferraro's response arrived. A single photograph delivered to the gate. It showed Katya at the zoo, standing in front of the penguin exhibit. The message was clear. He could reach her whenever he wanted. Volkov went completely still when he saw it, the kind of stillness that preceded violence. Get the children to the safe room. Now. Vincent. Now, Sophia. I ran. 48 hours passed without incident. Volkov mobilized every resource he had, tracking Ferraro's movements, analyzing security footage from the zoo. How they'd gotten close enough to photograph Katya without our security team noticing became clear when we found the second traitor. A driver who'd been with the family for 3 years. I discovered him the same way I'd found the first one, following the money. Here, I said, pointing to the screen in Volkov's office. Deposits of $5,000, monthly, for 4 months. Always 2 days after we went somewhere public. Volkov's expression was carved from ice. Where is he now? Night shift, patrolling the south perimeter. He made a call, gave quiet instructions, hung up. He won't be a problem anymore. I should have felt something. Guilt, horror, moral outrage. Instead, I felt only cold satisfaction. These people had threatened children, had put Katya's face on display like a hunting trophy. I want to increase security around the school, I said. 4 guards minimum, rotating positions so patterns can't be established. Different vehicles for pickup and drop-off, already arranged. He rubbed his face, exhaustion showing through his usual control. I'm pulling them from school, homeschooling only until this is resolved. For how long? However long it takes. 2 weeks of lockdown followed. The children handled it better than expected, probably because they'd learned early that safety required sacrifice. Alexei threw himself into his studies. Katya painted obsessively, creating increasingly dark landscapes. Nikolai stayed close to me, a silent shadow who'd finally started speaking in full sentences, but now retreated back into protective silence. I tried to maintain normalcy. Structured lessons, art projects, movie nights. But tension saturated the house like humidity before a storm. Volkov barely slept. I'd find him at 3 a.m, reviewing security feeds or on calls with his network. He was planning something, I could tell. The question was what? Let me help, I said one night, joining him in his study. You are helping. You're keeping the children stable. I'm capable of more than childcare. I pulled up a chair. Tell me what you're planning. He hesitated, then showed me the documents he'd been reviewing. Financial records for Ferraro's operations. I've been trying to find leverage. Something I can use to force him to back off. I scanned the numbers. Processing. He's overextended. Look at these debt ratios. He borrowed heavily to expand territory, but his revenue hasn't increased proportionally. Meaning he's desperate. That's why he wants your territory so badly. He needs the income to service his debts. I pulled up another file. Who holds his loans? 3 different organizations. 2 domestic, 1 international. If someone bought those loans, they'd control him completely. Volkov leaned back, considering. That would require significant capital. How much are we talking? 40 million? Maybe 50. You have that. In legitimate holdings. If I liquidate everything, yes. But that would leave us vulnerable in other ways. Or it would give us leverage Ferraro can't match. I turned to face him. He's expecting violence. A territory war. He's not expecting financial warfare. Understanding dawned in his eyes. We buy his debts, force him to accept our terms, or face foreclosure on everything he owns. Exactly. No bloodshed, no risk to the children. Just cold numbers and legal pressure. That's remarkably ruthless. I learned from the best. He kissed me then, hard and grateful. How did I survive before you? Poorly, I'm guessing. The plan took 3 weeks to execute. Volkov reached out to intermediaries, negotiating purchases of Ferraro's debt through shell corporations I helped establish. We structured it carefully, making sure the paper trail was clean, but untraceable to Volkov directly. When the final pieces were in place, Volkov sent Ferraro a message. A meeting, neutral territory, to discuss terms. I'm coming with you, I said. Absolutely not. He knows about me anyway. The photograph proved that. I'm already a target. I held up the financial documents. And I'm the one who structured this deal. I can explain it better than anyone. Sophia, you're not making this decision for me, Vincent. I'm part of this family. That means I share the risks. He looked at me for a long moment. If anything happens to you, it won't. You'll make sure of it. The meeting was set for a warehouse near the port. Neutral ground, both sides limited to 3 people each. Volkov brought his 2 most trusted enforcers. I wore a gray suit that looked professional, carried a briefcase full of contracts. Ferraro arrived exactly on time. He looked older than his photograph, harder. The kind of man who'd killed before and would again without hesitation. Vincent, he said, sauntering forward. And the lovely governess, how domestic. Miss Brennan is here in a professional capacity, Volkov said. She has a business proposal. Ferraro laughed. Business? I thought we were here to discuss territory. I opened my briefcase, pulled out 3 folders. We are. Just not the way you expected. I slid a folder across the table. As of yesterday, we hold controlling interest in your outstanding debts. $52 million across 7 different loans. His expression shifted. What are you talking about? Your loans with the Mogilevich organization, the Calabrian syndicate, the offshore accounts in Grand Cayman. I opened the second folder, showing detailed financial statements. We purchased them all, which means we own your debt. Ferraro snatched the documents, scanning. His face went white, then red with rage. You can't. We already did. It's perfectly legal. Debt transfers happen constantly. I pulled out the 3rd folder. Here's our offer. You accept a formal peace agreement. No retaliation against the Volkov family. No attempts on our territory. In exchange, we restructure your debt to manageable terms. You keep your operations, avoid bankruptcy, and everyone lives to see tomorrow. And if I refuse? Volkov leaned forward. Then we call in the full debt. $52 million due immediately. You can't pay it. We both know you can't. So we foreclose on everything you own. Your distribution network, your properties, your legitimate fronts. All of it becomes ours. You're bluffing. Am I? Volkov's tone was pleasant, lethal. Test me and find out. Ferraro looked between us, calculation visible in his eyes. He was weighing options, measuring risks. Finally, he said, I want to see the actual debt documents. Verify they're legitimate. I pulled out a 4th folder. Everything's here. Signed, notarized, legally binding. You have 48 hours to decide, Accept our terms or face foreclosure. The standoff stretched. Then Ferraro grabbed the folders and stood. I need to consult with my advisors. You have 48 hours, Volkov repeated. Not a minute more. We watched him leave, tension coiling in my shoulders. That went better than expected, I said once we were alone. Or he's planning to kill us both before the deadline. Always the optimist. Volkov pulled me close. Thank you. For this. For being brilliant and terrifying and exactly what I needed. We're not celebrating yet. He could still refuse. He won't. He's desperate, but he's not stupid. He'll take the deal. We made it home just as darkness fell. The children rushed to greet us, relief visible in their faces. Katya attached herself to my waist. Alexei tried to look casual but hovered close. Nikolai grabbed Volkov's hand and didn't let go. Did you fix it? Alexei asked. We're working on it, Volkov said. Does that mean we can go back to school? Soon, very soon. That night, all 3 children ended up in my suite. We built a fort out of blankets, watched movies until midnight, ate popcorn until we felt sick. It was chaotic and loud and perfect. Volkov found us at 2 a.m, all 4 of us asleep in a tangle of limbs and pillows. I woke to him sitting on the edge of the makeshift fort, watching us with an expression I couldn't quite read. What? I whispered, careful not to wake the children. This, he said softly. You. Them. Everything we've built. He took my hand. I've spent 20 years surviving. I forgot what it was like to actually live. And now? Now I remember. He kissed my forehead. Ferraro called. He's accepting our terms. We meet tomorrow to sign the agreement. Relief flooded through me. It's over. Not over, but close. He stood carefully, lifting Nikolai into his arms. Come on, let's get everyone to bed. We transferred the children to their rooms one by one, tucking them in like ordinary parents. In the hallway, Volkov pulled me close. Marry me, he said. I stared at him. What? Marry me. Not because we have to. Not because of the children. Because I love you. And I want to build a life with you. His hands framed my face. Because you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I don't want to waste another day pretending otherwise. That's the worst proposal I've ever heard, I said, but I was smiling. Is that a yes? Yes, you impossible man. Yes. He kissed me, and I tasted joy I hadn't known I was capable of feeling. Somewhere down the hall, I heard Katya giggling. They're awake, I murmured. Let them celebrate. God knows they've earned it. The peace treaty with Ferraro held. Volkov restructured his entire operation over the next 18 months, systematically transitioning from criminal enterprise to legitimate business empire. He sold off distribution networks, transferred territories, paid off old debts, and severed old alliances. It wasn't clean or easy, but it was methodical. I watched him transform from crime boss to hotel mogul with something like pride. The man who'd threatened to kill me in a warehouse now spent his days in board meetings and contract negotiations. He was good at it too, approaching legitimate business with the same strategic mind that had kept him alive in a world where mistakes meant death. The children flourished. Alexei returned to school, made friends, joined the debate team. At 14, he was talking about law school, about using the system to help people who'd been left behind. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. Katya's nightmares stopped. She started therapy with a specialist in childhood trauma. And slowly, the shadows lifted. Her art transformed from dark landscapes to bright, hopeful scenes. She drew our family constantly, adding new details each time. In her latest, we were at a beach, all 5 of us smiling. Nikolai, now 8 years old, talked constantly, made up for years of silence with an endless stream of questions, observations, and stories. He was bright, curious, and utterly fearless in the way only a child who'd survived the worst could be. We got married on a Tuesday afternoon in November. Nothing fancy, just a judge and 2 witnesses. The children stood with us, dressed in their best clothes. Katya cried happy tears. Alexei tried to look sophisticated but kept grinning. Nikolai held the rings and took his responsibility very seriously. Do you, Vincent Volkov, take Sophia Brennan to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. And do you, Sophia Brennan, take Vincent Volkov to be your lawfully wedded husband? I looked at the man who'd captured me, threatened me, offered me a family I never thought I'd have. I do. Then by the power vested in me by the state of Illinois, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Vincent kissed me while the children cheered, and I felt complete in a way I'd spent 32 years searching for. We moved out of the Lake Forest estate 6 months later. Too many memories. Too much security infrastructure that we no longer needed. Instead, we bought a house in Evanston. Large but not ostentatious, in a neighborhood with good schools and normal families. The kind of place where children rode bikes and neighbors waved. It's very suburban, Vincent said, standing in our new living room. That's the point. I've never been suburban before. You'll learn. He pulled me close, resting his chin on my head. Thank you. For this. For pushing me to change. You did the changing. I just pointed out the direction. Still, I wouldn't have gotten here without you. 1 year after the wedding, I got a call from the adoption agency. We'd submitted our application months earlier, hoping to add to our family. The process had been complicated by Vincent's background, but his legitimate business holdings and my connections helped smooth the way. We have a little girl, the caseworker said, 4 years old. She's been in foster care since she was 2. Her name is Mila. We met her the following week. Tiny, with light brown hair and eyes that held too much sadness for someone so young. She clutched a stuffed elephant and watched us with wary suspicion. Hello, Mila, I said, kneeling to her level. I'm Sophia. This is Vincent. She said nothing, just stared. We heard you like elephants, Vincent said, gesturing to her toy. A tiny nod. My nephew Nikolai likes dinosaurs, and my niece Katya likes rabbits. They're excited to meet you. Are they nice? Her voice was barely a whisper. Very nice. And they're very good at being siblings. I never had siblings before. Would you like to? She considered this with 4-year-old seriousness. Maybe. The adoption process took 4 months. 4 months of visits, evaluations, paperwork, and waiting. The children were patient, excited, preparing their home for a new sister. Katya cleaned out half her closet for Mila's clothes. Alexei built a bookshelf for her room. Nikolai drew welcome signs and hung them everywhere. When we finally brought her home for good, all 3 children waited on the front porch. Mila held my hand so tight it hurt, her elephant clutched in the other. Hi, Katya said, kneeling down. I'm Katya. I'm 12. Do you want to see your room? I helped decorate it. Mila looked up at me. I nodded encouragement. She took Katya's offered hand and disappeared into the house, the elephant bobbing along behind them. She's so small, Nikolai observed. You were that small once, Vincent reminded him. Was I that scared? Yes, but you had people who cared for you, just like Mila does now. Alexei, now 15 and perpetually trying to seem mature, cleared his throat. We should probably establish some ground rules about sharing space and respecting boundaries. Later, I said, ruffling his hair despite his protests. Let her settle in first. I'm just saying, structure is important. You sound like me. Is that a bad thing? No, it's actually kind of wonderful. That night, after Mila was asleep in her new room, after the other children had finally settled down from excitement, Vincent and I sat in our bedroom. 4 children, he said. How did we end up with 4 children? You said you had plenty for both of us. I did say that, didn't I? In a warehouse, while I was zip-tied to a chair. Not my most romantic moment. I don't know. It worked out pretty well. I leaned against him. Are you happy? Terrified. Exhausted. Completely out of my depth. He kissed my forehead. And happier than I ever thought possible. 2 years after that conversation, I stood in our backyard watching chaos unfold. Alexei, 17 now, and preparing for college applications, was attempting to teach Mila to ride a bike. She was 6, fearless, and kept trying to go too fast. Slow down, Alexei called. You're going to crash. She crashed, got up laughing, tried again. Katya, 14, sat under a tree with sketchpad, drawing the scene. She'd been accepted into an art program at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago for talented young students. Her work was stunning, full of life and color and hope. Nikolai, 10, was building something complicated with his engineering kit. He wanted to be an inventor, he'd announced last week, or maybe an astronaut, or possibly a chef. He changed career aspirations weekly. Vincent emerged from the house carrying lemonade. "Your daughter is going to break her neck." "Our daughter, and she's fine. She's 6 years old doing wheelies. She's brave. She gets that from you." He set down the tray, wrapped his arms around me from behind. "I got a call today. The last property transfer went through. I'm officially out, completely legitimate. How does it feel?" "Strange. Good strange, but strange." He paused. "Ferraro was found dead yesterday. Apparent suicide, but we both know what that means." "His organization?" "Dissolved. Territory absorbed by others. He overreached, made too many enemies." Vincent's tone was neutral, but I heard the relief underneath. That chapter is finally closed. And what chapter are we in now? The boring suburban one, apparently. PTA meetings and college tours and teaching 6-year-olds to ride bikes. Sounds terrible. Absolutely awful. He turned me to face him. Best decision I ever made. Later, after dinner and homework battles and bedtime routines, after Mila's 3rd request for water and Nikolai's 10th goodnight, and Katya's insistence she needed to finish one more sketch, after Alexei finally stopped studying and went to bed, Vincent and I collapsed on the couch. "Remember when we thought 3 children would be challenging?" I said. "We were so naive. We were idiots. Speak for yourself. I was charming and well-informed. You zip-tied me to a chair. In my defense, you were surveilling my property. In my defense, you were running a criminal empire." Past tense. Was running. Right. Now you're just a boring hotel mogul. The most boring. He pulled me closer. "Tell me something. Do you ever regret it? Leaving the FBI? Your old life? Everything?" I thought about the woman I'd been 2 years ago. Lonely. Purposeless. Chasing meaning through work that never quite filled the void. Then I thought about the life I had now. Messy. Chaotic. Full of laughter and love and ordinary problems. Not even for a second. Even though you can't have biological children? That it wasn't the traditional path? This is better than traditional. This is what I chose. What we built together. I touched his face. "You told me once that you had plenty for both of us. You were right. We have everything." From upstairs came a crash, followed by Mila's giggle and Alexei's exasperated, "What are you doing out of bed?" Vincent sighed. "I'll get it." "No, my turn. You handled the last 3. I found Mila in the hallway, elephant in hand, grinning. "I was thirsty. You've had 4 glasses of water. I'm very thirsty. You're very stalling." I picked her up. "Back to bed. Will you stay until I fall asleep?" "Of course." She snuggled into her blankets, elephant tucked under one arm. "Sophia?" "Yes, sweetheart. I'm glad you and Vincent found me." My throat tightened. "We're glad too. Alexei says you used to catch bad guys. Before us." "I did." "And then you stopped?" "I found something more important." "What?" "Family." She considered this seriously. "I think that was a good choice." "So do I, baby. So do I." She fell asleep holding my hand. I stayed longer than necessary, watching her breathe, marveling at the impossible path that had led me here. When I returned downstairs, Vincent had made tea. We sat together in comfortable silence, his arm around my shoulders, my head on his chest. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. That I was wrong. All those years thinking I couldn't have a family, that something was missing from my life. And now? Now I know nothing was missing. I just hadn't found my people yet. He kissed the top of my head. "Your people are pretty great." They really are. Outside, Chicago settled into night. Inside our home, our children slept safe and loved. And for the first time in my life, I understood what it meant to truly belong. We'd built something impossible. A family created not from blood but from choice, from sacrifice, from showing up every day and choosing each other again and again. It was messy and complicated and nothing like I'd imagined. It was absolutely perfect.